All right, man, welcome back to another video. Hope your day is going good. And in today's video, greed is destroying the world. Video by Drew Gooden. Yeah, man, shout out to my guy, man, sending this video to us for us to react to. This is nothing new, though. If you guys had any form of conversation or watched any video, man, you know I talk about corporate greed, man. TRaw.
Yeah, man, the world is too focused on money, bro. So, you know, money will make you do crazy things, man.
All right, that's it.
I feel like for the past 3 years, I've heard over and over again that a recession is about to hit, the stock market is going to crash, the housing prices are going to come back down to earth any day now, and yet somehow all of these things keep not happening. And for most people, it doesn't make sense. What do you mean the economy's good? My dentist just tried to get me to sign up for a credit card. Since the pandemic, the cost of living has skyrocketed, inflation is out of control.
Hey, you know shit is cooked when you go into the dentist and he hit you with a credit card, bruh. You got a payment plan on teeth? Bruh, we already got a payment plan on your house, your car, your phone. God damn.
Groceries have never been more
Niggas
expensive.
putting payment plans
Layoffs are
on
happening
burritos
at
and
an
shit.
alarming rate. At this point, a college degree might be more likely to get you into crippling debt than it is to help you find a job. And even if you have savings, you're more than likely one stroke of bad luck away from losing it all to medical bills. And yet some people will look you right in the eyes and tell you, I don't know what you're talking about. The numbers are green.
Yeah. Lying to themselves.
The problem is each of these people are kind of correct in their own way. This is the best the economy has ever been if you already have money. If you bought a house.
Facts.
Yeah.
Bro, I love that he said that. If you have money, this is your golden ticket. You're making money. You're just living and breathing is making you money. But if you're poor, it's costing you just to live. Just to get up and breathe the air, it's at $10. You go and brush your teeth, minus 20. By the time you get out the door, you're already minus 100. You haven't even gotten paid yet.
5 years ago, there's a chance it's already doubled in value. If you invested in the S&P 500 in 2021, you could be up as much as 80%. And that's not like saying, you know, you'd be rich if you just bought Bitcoin in 1973. That's just the regular stock market. You didn't need to have some genius level of foresight to be able to do that. You just needed to already have a bunch of cash sitting around. And obviously for the overwhelming majority of people, that is not the case. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're not thinking about the stock market. If you're in your 20s, you haven't even been working long enough to save any money to invest. You don't get to benefit from rising home equity if you don't own a house. The only thing this graph represents to you is how much further away that dream is getting. Right now, the average age of home buyers is 59 years old.
God damn, you're damn near in a wheelchair by the time you get to relax. Hey, I finally got my first home.
What?
I can just push it through. Shit. It would have been nice to have been able to walk through here. God damn.
What a depressing statistic. This is the problem with an economy that disproportionately benefits asset holders instead of the people still trying to earn them. Wealth grows exponentially, but wages aren't even outpacing inflation, which means if your salary hasn't been going up every year, you're effectively making less money. Meanwhile, the fastest way to make $1 million is to just already have 10 million. Leave it in an investment account for a year and congratulations, you now have 11.
And the crazy thing about what he just said is, even if your wage is increasing, you're still just staying afloat unless you're getting a hefty raise at the end of the year. And most of us aren't getting that.
And I ain't gonna lie, you ain't lying, bro.
$11 million. At a larger scale, this is why
most people that you're working with have been getting the same pay for the last 20 years. It just incrementally going up by 25 cents a year.
It feels like there's two different economies happening and they're both moving in opposite directions. 50% of the stock market is owned by the top 1% and only 1% is owned by the bottom 50%. Don't let somebody tell you that these numbers going up should discredit your own lived experience. Don't let somebody who's benefited from untaxed inheritance or years of compound interest granting them passive income tell you that your problem is you're just not working hard enough. No, the real answer is, sorry, you should have been born sooner. Have you thought about that? Maybe instead of wasting all that time farting around kindergarten
Bro, I be
class,
thinking
you should
about
have
that
been
sometime.
investing in real estate. It's not my fault you're lazy. People are getting squeezed in
But
every
you know, we
direction
should have
while
just
also being
invested, like he
gaslit
said in
into
the
thinking
earlier
that it's
time.
somehow our fault. There's
Nigga, I'm sorry. I was busy going Google Gaga. Mama, I just partied. Okay? I couldn't have predicted the stock market was going to go up.
That's true.
Shit, if I knew Bitcoin when I left high school was going to be as big as it is, y'all wouldn't even see me right now.
Yeah.
I'd be on a whole different planet. Literally.
Thing is, we don't think about these pandemics that could possibly happen, bro.
Yeah.
Just because everything is going good at the moment, we just live in a moment, bro.
That's true.
But you got to prepare for the future.
Yeah.
CEOs in earnings calls bragging about how they get to make customers pay for inflation so they don't have to. The economy is so bad right now, I'm about to segue into an extremely ill-timed brand deal in a video about greed. You think I like looking like a hypocrite? Of course not.
This guy, hey, well, shout out to you, bro. You're honest about it. I like that.
Avocado toast isn't going to pay for itself. I'm upside down. It's a nice device free. You may think
Thank you, bro. Get your money, bro. I really appreciate your honesty,
bro. The only
bro.
reason we're not technically in a recession is because the GDP is still going up. But the only reason the GDP is still going up is because of the AI industry. But the only reason that even looks as good as it does is because a handful of companies are just like passing money back and forth. But there's no recession. You're hallucinating that. Because the AI industry is now single-handedly propping up the entire global economy, there's really only two.
Bro, and we spoke on this. We just put in a video out. My dog was just editing as we watching this about the open AI bubble and how there's nothing but debt in AI. They just know there's debt and they keep pushing it.
Yeah.
So how the fuck are we going to survive if we're putting all our resources into language models?
Two paths forward. Worst case scenario, turns out it is all bullshit. The bubble pops in spectacular fashion. Trillions of dollars of investments cannot get paid out, and everything goes up in flames. Or best case scenario, a few billionaires get even richer. Wait, is that what we're hoping for? All right, you're gonna have to bear with me while I go on another AI rant here. I know I do this like every 6 months, but it's not going away. It doesn't count as beating a dead horse if the horse is still alive. We got to kill that horse first. People largely do not like AI and are worried about the future it imposes. It's currently being used to make a bunch.
Seems like your point is valid now. Everybody's realizing AI has to die.
Yeah.
Promises that almost no one asked for. The main appeal of it comes from corporations who see advancements in AI as a way to further reduce their dependence on human labor. The only thing cheaper than outsourcing jobs is just eliminating them altogether. The wet dream that
No, the easiest way to eliminate this is to get slaves. And we've seen in time that humans don't want to be slaves anymore. So let's get the bots. Let's rev up those bots.
that soils the sheets of every CEO is a company that's somehow run entirely on its own, and they can just sit back and collect all the profits for themselves. No more dealing with pesky labor laws or health insurance or can I have Saturday off? My family died. No! Shut up. That's the eventual goal, and why they're all pouring billions of dollars into NVIDIA chips and data centers and cool shirts for Mark Zuckerberg. And in the meantime, we're stuck with ChatGPT, a humanized Google search designed to affirm whatever belief you share with it, even if it's incredibly dangerous. Or generative video apps that are already being used to trick people into thinking something happened that didn't actually happen. Awesome technology. I'm so glad this exists. And I think the best thing we can do to fight back against AI is to simply not engage with it. The problem is, even if you don't use these tools, if you live in certain parts of the country, you might be paying for them. There's been a lot of really good investigative journalism done on all these new data centers that are popping up around the country. Who's funding them and who's getting screwed over in the process. For example, some residents in New Jersey who noticed that their power bill kept going up, even though they were actually using less electricity than usual. Well, it turns out it's due to an overall supply cost. Basically, when the total amount of electricity usage in an area goes up, power companies tend to pass those higher costs onto their customers. And for the past several years, electricity usage has been skyrocketing, with over half of that increase coming solely from data centers. Your utility bill is going up Because Elon Musk wants to pretend to have a girlfriend. You see, AI doesn't just exist in some theoretical space. It has to be trained on trillions of gigabytes of data, and that data has to be stored in a physical location. To power this, it requires an absurd amount of electricity, which generates an absurd amount of heat, which then requires an absurd amount of water to cool off. Most of these buildings use over 1 million gallons per day, roughly the equivalent of 10,000 people. This would be even more problematic if they were being built in areas where water is extremely scarce. So we should be good as long as we don't build a bunch of them in like the middle of the desert. But to be fair, they are extremely efficient about it. They don't just use the water, they also poison. Every part of this process is wasteful and destructive, and this is only the beginning. AI is still a relatively new phenomenon, so we're only just starting to see the effects of this. But the Department of Energy projects that the percentage of electricity used by data centers could nearly triple in just the next 3 years. And who gets to pay for it? We do. It's hard for me to accurately
And that's why we said before, bro, we gotta fight back as the people. We are the consumers, so if we don't pay them nothing, they gotta lower the cost, bro. Or some of the stuff that they doing, they gonna have to eliminate because they don't want to lose money. So we the ones who really in control.
express how infuriating this is. The giant buildings that power this stupid fucking technology are being subsidized by people who just happen to live near them. Oh, but hold on, because they're technically contributing to the operating costs. So does that mean that they get to share in the eventual profits? No, of course not. They're more like involuntary investors doing it for free, or really worse than free, because a lot of them are being kept awake at night by the deafening hum endlessly emitting from the factory shoved into the backyard of their homes, and have now surely plummeted in value as a result. But hey, at least they're doing all of this to make a product that hopes to replace 80% of humanity. It's not enough that these people already own everything they could ever want. They could so easily afford to pay for these things without even noticing that that money is gone. But why would they do that when they could simply have poor people pay for it instead? Because nothing will...
What did I say, guys? It costs money just to breathe.
Yeah.
Don't think that you can stash your money for free either. Come on, man. That was the first sign that we should have known something was fucked. We can't even stash our money away for free unless you hit a certain threshold of wealth.
Ever be enough for them. You know, when a rich person makes some shady deal to screw over the working class, people will joke that they just need that money to buy their 4th yacht. And like, I don't even think it's that. They could buy 1,000 yachts and still not run out of money. They don't want to spend their money. They just want it to get bigger. It's the same obsession with seeing number go up that keeps me addicted to old school RuneScape, except the only life that's ruining is my own. What they have is a disease. They have been scourged with the blight of insatiable greed, cursed to an endless pursuit of wealth that will never bring them true happiness. I would almost feel bad for them if they weren't actively destroying the world in the process. One of the most frustrating things about this problem is that if you even try to suggest that maybe these guys should just have a little bit less money, like you guys can still be rich, whatever, just turn it down a notch because you're kind of making shit terrible for everybody else, you're treated like you're crazy. No, this is the American way. If you don't like it, then leave. And yet these ideas aren't radical. They're not even new. Most people who advocate for a more progressive tax system are only calling for a return to something that used to exist in this country. We just forgot about it. So I think it's important to do a little history lesson here. If you can believe it, there was a time where the working class in this country actually had it really good. And it was mostly because things got so bad during the Great Depression that the government was worried about the country collapsing. Thousands of banks had closed, millions of people lost their entire life savings, unemployment peaked at 25%. So in fear of a revolution happening, the government was like, all right, fine, we'll give you livable wages. Just please put that musket down. I don't like the way you're looking at me. So the New Deal was born, and with it came Social Security, better labor standards, the right to unionize, a national minimum wage, an 8-hour workday. And over the next 2 to 3 decades, America became the most prosperous country on earth. Productivity skyrocketed and wages rose with them. Extra profits weren't just redistributed to employees, but their employers were proud to do it. They would brag about how lucrative it was to work for them. Look, 37% of profits went to our employees last year because this is a team effort, and when we win, they win. In 1943, Johnson & Johnson puts out...
You know what's crazy, bro? Businesses don't even talk like this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, when businesses say that they're a good company, like Fortune 500, they're like, oh, we're a Fortune 500 company. We're a great environment to work for. What about the money? You don't think I need money to live?
Yeah.
Why are we not talking about the pay?
Exactly.
Because this is a team effort, and when we win, they win. In 1943, Johnson & Johnson puts out this mission statement that's like, here's our list of priorities in order. Customers, number one, we got to make good products. Employees, number two, everyone who works here needs to be valued and
you got to look this shit up online to know how much you're really supposed to be getting.
And as a company of our size, we feel like it's our responsibility to contribute to that however we can. And finally, all the way at the bottom, our shareholders can just have whatever's left. Of course, we need to make a profit to survive and grow, but that should just come naturally as a byproduct of focusing on these three tenets. Compared to modern corporate standards, this is all such a foreign concept that it almost sounds like it's coming from a fictional universe. But this actually happened. This was just America 70 years ago. Now, during this time, what do you think the tax rate was on the wealthiest Americans? For reference, in 2025, the highest income tax bracket is supposed to be around 24%, but because of how many ways there are to circumvent the rules, it often ends up being as little as 3%. For someone like Elon Musk, who doesn't take a salary from Tesla and instead just owns a large percentage of its stock, as long as he doesn't sell any of that stock, then technically there's no income to tax him on. Now, he can still leverage the value of those stocks to make purchases, you know, like how money works, but it's still not taxable because of the rules. This is how people like him and Jeff Bezos can be, in terms of net worth, two of the richest people on the planet, and in some years pay $0 in tax. In the middle of the 20th century, the tax rate on the ultra wealthy was not 3% or 20%.
That is wild.
50%.
Even
it was
when
between 70
even when they're robbing y'all, they don't want to pay taxes. Jesus.
94%. It honestly sounds crazy, but even a lot of the people being taxed understood that it was necessary for society to continue to exist. And having a strong middle class was a crucial investment into the future of the country. But I don't know, man. I just think it's kind of interesting that during what's referred to as the golden age of capitalism, the government did a bunch of socialism. During the period of time that birthed the idea of the American dream, the government was taxing the absolute shit out of the richest Americans and using that money to provide jobs and welfare programs
What happened to
for
that?
everybody else. A single income household working a regular ass job could afford to start a family, buy a house, send their kids to college, and retire at a reasonable age.
Back in the day, and somebody fucked it all
gush
off.
about capitalism the way they do, because for them, it was great. But at this point, it is disingenuous to...
I'm not gonna lie, what he's not saying is this mostly happened for whites. You can look this up.
use that time period as the example for why capitalism
because
works.
Because the time period he's talking about was during segregation still.
The generation of people who started as beneficiaries of a more equitable system changed the rules once the roles were reversed and they had the power. So what the hell happened?
Wrong with that,
Everything was
brother.
going great. What changed?
But I'm
Well,
gonna say what it
obviously,
is.
but one of the first big dominoes was the U.S.'s involvement in the Vietnam War, which was expensive and deadly, but to be fair, also accomplished nothing. And this had long-term ramifications. America had been diverting so much money away from manufacturing and towards defense that it opened the door for other growing industrialized countries to surpass them. More and more products were becoming cheaper to import than they were to produce. This led to factories getting shut down, unemployment starting to creep back up. A recession hits, and we're now facing a pivotal fork in the road in the late 70s. Either we could go back to what worked in the past, prioritize the working class, reinvest into our own infrastructure, try to help lift people out of poverty they've fallen into through no fault of their own, or we say, fuck the government. We don't owe you shit. We're stupid, isn't that right? I don't even know my own name. Exactly. The deal is you pay taxes and we don't do anything. And you like that, right? They like that? Sounds good to me. The prevailing philosophy throughout the 80s became trickle-down economics. The logic being, oh man, these Rich people are really handcuffed. You know, I bet if we lower the corporate tax rate from 70 all the way to eventually 28%, then companies will use all that extra money to pay their employees more. I mean, if there's one thing we know about rich people, is that they're always looking out for the little guy. Now, for some reason, this hasn't worked out yet, but it's only been 55 years, so the jury's still out. See, I would argue that part of the reason why companies in the 40s and 50s were so generous with their extra profits was because the tax rate was so high. I mean, think about it. If you're faced with the decision between giving a huge chunk of money to the government or redistributing it back to the employees who helped you earn it in the first place, you would be much more likely to do the latter, because it's an investment in your own company. It's a mutually beneficial exchange. Well-compensated workers are proven to be more loyal and more productive, and those are two things that you want. Now, there were other factors as well, loosening a lot of anti-monopoly regulations, the legalization of stock buybacks, but this dramatically lower tax rate is a big reason why the 80s serves as the dividing line on just about every economic graph you could look at. This was the beginning of a long and continuous transfer of wealth from the working class to the top 1%. And while it would be very easy to just blame all of this on then President Reagan, that would only be mostly true. Sure, this new approach opened the door for more exploitation and greed, but you still needed a few scumbags willing to go through that door for the evolution to be complete. And nobody sprinted through it faster than one man. The real-life cartoon villain who designed the blueprint that most modern CEOs are still following to this day. His name was Jack Welch, and he's often referred to as the man who broke capitalism. During his tenure as CEO of General Electric, he turned the once quintessential American company that reshaped people's lives and
bro, I have not seen this logo in so long. Shout out to bro, man. This has just been a big part of my childhood in Jamaica, in America. When I go and I see certain, you know, appliances, you see this General Electric.
Essential American company that reshaped people's lives and supplied hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs all across the country into a worthless carcass and a joke of a corporation, all while he became one of the richest people on the planet. In the century before Jack Welch took the reins, GE invented things like X-ray machines, jet engines, TVs, radios, and just about any kitchen appliance you can think of.
They made a lot of shit, bro.
Jack invented
laying people
off.
But
that was his big idea. What if we just fire a bunch of people? And then we don't have to spend as much money. It seems so simple and obviously very commonplace today, but before Jack, companies were not doing this. It was almost seen as un-American to fire somebody unless you absolutely had to. But Jack didn't think like everybody else. He was a pioneer. He bravely instituted the rank and yank system, where every year the bottom 10% of employees would get laid off no matter what. Not because they all deserved to be fired, but just because they fell on the wrong side of a spreadsheet. What's that?
Damn, I was just about to say shout out, bro. No, you know what? I take back my shout out. You're evil.
Yeah, he the one who invented that business model.
What?
It's like you gotta meet like a certain quota, and if you don't meet that quota and you fall below that, you out of here.
What? Shit is fucked up, bro.
And that happens a lot in retirement. Damn, I can't think of the name, bro. If I think of the name, I'll let y'all.
Yeah.
You no longer qualify for pension? Okay, then die. And to be clear, the layoffs were also not because the company wasn't profitable. It very much was, but it just wasn't profitable enough. See, when you routinely shut down entire facilities, you uproot thousands of lives, you create a toxic and selfish work environment where loyalty is replaced with fear, and if you're a company with the size and influence that GE had at the time, you can almost single-handedly destroy any semblance of a middle class across all of America. But this number gets a little bit bigger. So it's kind of a fair trade. GE was at the forefront of this countrywide philosophical transition from an economy that cared about making things and rewarding the labor it took to do so, to an economy that only cared about shareholder value and would prioritize anything it could to make that number go up. But the thing about the stock market is, it's mostly just about perception. As long as something seems to be growing in value, then people will be more likely to invest in it, which will in turn cause it to be more valuable, even if it shouldn't be. A lot of what Jack did during his time as CEO did not make the company better, but it did make it bigger. And in the eyes of Wall Street, that was all that mattered. I mean, come on, a business that relies on something boring like selling products can only grow so much. But a company that's constantly acquiring other companies simply has no ceiling. I mean, they could be worth infinity dollars when you think about it. So that's what they did over the next few decades.
And that's why you saw a lot of companies started to follow that. I see now, like when AT&T and them were having their bidding war, right? And Time Warner was buying up a lot of companies. I think Comcast was buying up a lot of companies too. And I think the government had to pass a law because I think AT&T was about to get too big because they were going to try to buy Time Warner. And they had to put in a law to stop that, because then, you know, a company's that size now, they're no longer any competition for it. Who's going to compete with AT&T?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they're like, no, we can't allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the government needs to step in and put laws in place, just like they did for that can limit a company's growth. In fact, take some of the money and give it back to the community, like we've seen in the beginning of the video. I've been talked about this, man.
Yeah.
GE bought and sold hundreds of companies, and Jack was lauded for his brilliance because from the outside, everything seemed to be working. I mean, sure, they were becoming
Damn,
a bloated,
I can't believe GE was that
hodgepodge
bad.
of unrelated businesses, eroding the company's infrastructure and prioritizing constant quarterly gains over any long-term sustainability. But no one gives a shit because the stock price has never been high. They've stumbled upon an infinite money glitch. They're just alchemizing value out of thin air. It gets to a point where the company founded by Thomas Edison doesn't even make their own light bulbs anymore. It's cheaper to get them somewhere else. Who cares? All they care about now is their ballooning financial division. They're issuing high interest loans. They become a massive hold.
And I feel like that's the problem with America, bro. Everybody just want to get richer. As y'all see, like a lot of industrial companies ended up dying because they're outsourcing. When us, we can just create it for a lower cost, but because our suppliers are trying to get more money, now we got to outsource.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Of subprime mortgages, a famously good investment to make in the early 2000s. Literally whatever it took to juice the numbers, that's what they would do. After about 30 years of short-term decisions that received instant gratification from shareholders but were gradually making things worse for the company and its dwindling number of employees, GE had become severely overvalued. And it wasn't until right after Jack retired with his $400 million severance package where his successors stepped in and were like,
wait, this doesn't make any sense.
The time bomb Jack planted explodes in their faces, and GE spends the next 20 years slowly bleeding out. And at this point, they couldn't fall back on just like selling microwaves because they'd been cutting corners on production so long that nobody wanted to buy any of their shitty garbage anymore. And of course, they had fallen way too far behind on innovation because they spent all their money on acquisitions instead of research. By 2021, the company that helped bring electricity to America was mercifully laid to rest, split into three separate institutions, none of which have come close.
Yes. Now I know why I haven't seen it. Aviation, healthcare, and energy. Wow.
Laid to rest, split into three separate institutions, none of which have come close
crazy.
to the dominance or influence
That's
that
what greed will do to you, man.
the American economy.
Greed leads to your destruction.
You know
man.
who isn't affected at all by the cataclysmic downfall of General Electric? Jack Welch, because he's dead now. He already got to live his entire life of luxury and adoration without ever having to deal with the fallout caused by his actions. He took control of a building with a rock-solid foundation and just kept...
That's just proof that everybody's just looking out for themselves, gang.
Yeah.
I don't really care about your job, your family. I got my own family. We're trying to live it big. Who gives a fuck about what your paycheck says?
Man, Jack Welch.
I can't lie.
Jack Welch, that I know about him, bro. The man was a slime. He was smart, but he was a slime ball. Because what he did was, he knew that somebody would be able to uncover this information. But he like, once they figured all this out, I won't even be here no more.
Scrapping it for parts
Hey,
until the
that's
only
smart.
thing left for it to do
What?
was collapse under its own weight. But by that point, he was long gone. I believe that this is the goal of those who now follow in his footsteps. They don't
Facts.
need to
I
care
think
about
so.
whether
They
or
feel
not what they're doing
shit.
is
I just need
harmful
to
or
make it till I die.
unsustainable. As long as the
Leave
facade
all
can
these
be
niggas to clean
maintained long
this shit
enough
up.
for them to reap the rewards, it doesn't matter that the ship is sinking behind them because they
Fuck.
have a lifeboat. It doesn't
Wow.
matter that America spent the past 60 years exporting all its jobs and decimating the economies of small towns all across the country because a few hundred people responsible for those things already got to live long, happy lives. They don't give a shit.
This cutthroat corporate
Yeah,
culture
bro.
that Jack pioneered is still seen all around us today, and through the magic of time, it's only getting worse.
Jeff
CEOs
Bezos.
make $1,000 every second, while their employees have to piss in water bottles so they don't fall behind. Routine layoffs, regardless of if a company is to piss in water bottles so they don't fall behind.
What?
Routine layoffs, regardless of if a company is even struggling, are so normalized that it's just something we've come to expect. The stock market rules the world. Every major
You know,
decision
man,
is
full
dictated by
bands.
this inherently volatile and short-sighted metric. And look at where that's gotten us. Millions without
But
jobs.
that's the messed up part though, because the people at the bottom, they the ones who are putting in the most work, bro. They putting in the most work.
Yeah.
And bro is telling he doing whatever he want, you know, making the company better if he wants to. Because, you know, his shit has already got them, what's the word I'm looking for?
The shit's already made. He's already got it. This shit is already built.
Yeah, what's it called? Automated. That's the
Yeah,
word.
yeah. It's all
Yeah.
automation.
It's
Yeah.
already automated, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, he don't give a fuck now. It's just like, yeah, man. Hey, what's going on? He's like, he just chilling, saying hi to Buddy. Buddy over here don't even know what's really going on.
Yeah, he
But
might
in
not even
reality-
know that's the CEO.
No, he might. He might, but he doesn't know how much he's making.
Yeah,
Like real time.
yeah.
And so real time you get that look like, damn, Buddy is not even hitting $1
What?
in his presence. 4 seconds. This man's already made 4 bets. More money than this guy sees in a month. Shit.
In water bottles, normalize it. Its vision is
That's
dictated
the
by
hurt,
this
boy.
inherently volatile and short-sighted metric. And look at where that's gotten us. Millions
But
without
hey, that's
jobs,
why
an
they hire your boss
enshittification
now.
epidemic,
Yeah.
and a
But people
concentration
starting
of
to
wealth that
realize
should be
it's
seen
better to
as a
own
threat to
something.
humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Even while owning everything, billionaires live in fear of losing it. So they weasel their way into politics, they influence elections, they buy policy changes, they
Mm-hmm.
use their wealth to reshape the world to benefit them even further. They try to control narratives by buying up news outlets. They can dictate what's on our social media feeds. They spend an enormous amount of resources on pitting us all against each other, so we're too distracted to see that the real problem is
God.
them.
He snapped. Oh my God, he snapped. T-Raw, who's been saying this?
You said it.
Bro, listen. It feels good to be vindicated, man. You've been shouting this shit from the rooftops. To all who would listen, just stop spending your money. One day, 24 hours, please.
People ain't gonna do that, bro.
Just 24 hours?
People ain't
Just
gonna do
one day? Bro, we'd change the whole economic structure of America
Mm.
with just 24 hours of not spending any money. But hey, if y'all want to keep running the hamster wheel and keeping guys like this cornball in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Should the human race survive?
I see that smile.
What?
Everything kind of
Like,
sucks
they'll
right now,
never
and as a
listen to
result, most
JStew.
people are justifiably pretty angry. But for media outlets and politicians, that anger is their single most powerful tool because they can tell you where to direct it. And they don't even really care who it is, so long as it's not them. That's why it changes all the time. Sometimes it's trans people, sometimes it's immigrants. Most recently, it's been poor people. There's been this whole war going on over food stamps because when the government shut down, 42 million Americans lost access to SNAP benefits. Now that's an objective piece of information, an inarguable statistic, but depending on how it's presented to you, it may lead you to draw a drastically different conclusion than somebody else. For some, it might put into perspective how dire the situation has gotten. Like surely there's underlying issues with a system that's allowed 12% of its population to be unable to afford food. Alternatively, you might hear that and think, wait a minute, my tax dollars are paying for these greedy freeloaders? I'm busting my ass over here to barely make ends meet.
Come on, man. You're busting your ass because you can make it. These people can't make it. I mean, unfortunately, it's fucked up the way they set it up, right? Somewhere along the lines, they set it to where our tax dollars afford SNAP benefits when we really know it should be the corporations that actually are the ones that feed into the SNAP benefits. It shouldn't be on us. Why is it on us for anything?
Yeah.
I mean, bro, we go to work, right? And they take taxes out of our fucking check. So why isn't that taxes being used to fund all the shit they say they use taxes for?
Exactly. We get taxed for foreign stuff. We get taxed for our money that we're working for.
Oh, man.
Man, it's taxed for everything.
Jesus, taxes till you die, bro. That's the one thing that's true in life.
Yeah.
Death and taxes.
And these leeches are using my money to buy cookies. That's not fair. And all it takes is highlighting a story or two of someone taking advantage of the system to make you think there's this rampant issue, that you're expected to feed all of these people with money you barely have enough of to feed yourself. This narrative has been used since the 70s because it's very effective. You work hard, they're lazy, this program is bad. It's easier than ever now to push this narrative because you can just AI generate a video of a fat lady screaming in Walmart and get everyone pissed off. But in order to properly analyze this, let's take a look at the data. First of all, SNAP only makes up about 1.5% of the overall federal budget. Less than an 8.
All right, man. This has been a good video. Very informative, honestly. I'd love to keep going further, but you already know we at VG30. Can't go no further, man. You know, we got other videos to push. Shout out my dog for sending this video. I hope, you know what I'm saying, our reaction, you fuck with it, man. You already know he requested this one specially, yeah. So you already know, man. Lay y'all great for y'all, man. Do you have anything you want to leave on the video? Probably not, right?
Yeah, man. This wise man once said, bro, 2 things guaranteed in this life.
I said that. This fun, nigga.
No, not you. You said something similar.
Yeah. But the true statement, what you're saying is only 2 truths.
Yeah, it's 2 truths.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some depth and you're gonna die.
You're gonna have some depth and you're gonna die.
And you're gonna die.
That's probably some hood philosophy shit. You gonna have some debt and you gonna die. Shit. I try to avoid that, y'all boys. Anyways, love y'all. Great for y'all, man. Binge the rest of the videos on the channel. Y'all already know. Catch y'all next one. We out.